button. We will first wrap this button with a size box, and inside the size box, let's add a width as double dot infinity. Let's save the code, and you can see button has been increased in size. Okay, once the design is completed, we can add basically two type of functions inside the OTP text field. We can get each field value using on code change. So when single character is going to be added in the first field, we can get that as well. And also using this on submit, it is a function we can get a complete code entered by the user. So let's say it's a code that we are going to receive, and then inside this function we can print it. OTP is this code. Let's add a semicolon. Let's save the code. Open this run method. Okay, now inside this run method, let's just delete everything and you can see I have just deleted two values, and when I'm going to also delete it again, and when I'm going to add the last value, and you can see over here OTP is this is the OTP 158688, which is entered right on the screen. So this is how we can get the value entered, which is entered right on. On the screen. So this is how we can get the value entered by the user. So you can see over here OTP is, and you can see I have just deleted two values, and when I'm going to also delete it again, and when I'm going to add the last value, and you can see over here OTP is this is the OTP 158688, which is entered right on the screen. So this is how we can get the value entered by the user. So I hope you learned something new. If you learned something new, please like Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. In today's tutorial, we are going to design the dashboard in Flutter. So today's tutorial is going to be very informative and very useful for those who are new and also for those who are expert and want to create some complex designs because we are going to cover multiple limitations in the design. So first quickly have a look what we are going to create. So this is our splash screen. We are creating the login Flutter application, and after the splash screen, this is the welcome screen. We have already created all the videos related to or all the designs related to authentication, which contains login, sign up. You can see this is the sign up that we created. Then we have a login with the transition effect, forget password, email, and also OTP screen. And then inside the login, we are assuming that let's say user provide us the credentials and credentials are true. When user click on this login, he or she will be redirected toward this screen, which is the dashboard, and this is actually the today's tutorial that we are going to learn. Okay, now let's try to divide the layout structure. At the top first we will and also already creating the login Flutter application, and after the splash screen, so this is our splash screen. We are creating the login Flutter application, and after the splash screen, this is the welcome screen. We have already created all the videos related to or all the designs related to authentication, which contains login, sign up. You can see this is the sign up that we created. Then we have a login with the transition effect, forget password, email, and also OTP screen. And then inside the login, we are assuming that let's say user provide us the credentials and credentials are true. When user click on this login, he or she will be redirected toward this screen, which is the dashboard, and this is actually the today's tutorial that we are going to learn. Okay, now let's try to divide the layout structure. At the top first we will create we are creating. So first quickly have a look what we are going to create. So this is our splash screen. We are creating the login Flutter application, and after the splash screen, this is the welcome screen. We have already created all the videos related to or all the designs related to authentication, which contains login, sign up. You can see this is the sign up that we created. Then we have a login with the transition effect, forget password, email, and also OTP screen. And then inside the login, we are assuming that let's say user provide us the credentials and credentials are true. When user click on this login, he or she will be redirected toward this screen, which is the dashboard, and this is actually the today's tutorial that we are going to learn. Okay, now let's try to divide the layout structure. At the top first we will create the app bar with the back, and this is this login. He or she will be redirected toward this screen, which is the dashboard, and this is actually the today's tutorial that we are going to learn. Transition effect, forget password, email, and also OTP screen. And then inside the login, we are assuming that let's say user provide us the credentials and credentials are true. When user click on this login, he or she will be redirected toward this screen, which is the dashboard. This type of search box, which has a first using a list view. So this is what we are going to learn today. We are going to learn multiple concepts inside it. So let's get started. As you can see, we are creating the login playlist, and we have created all the design features on the left side. And then I decided to also create this dashboard design because it will be much more logical to design this with a design section. So after this, we are going to jump towards our backend, which is the Flutter backend, and we are going. Okay, so we are in, and inside I have added all the required images. You can get all these images from coding with, which is the main folder, and inside for the constants we are going to use the card background color, which we have already added. Then in the image strings, all the images have been added over here, and same in the sizes. I have created two dashboard sizes. Use the card background color, which we have already added. Edit. Then in the image string, all the images have been added over here, and same in the size. Sizes, I have created two dashboard sizes, dashboard padding and dashboard card padding. And then in the text, with the 658 packages in 1 minute. So once it's done, minimize it. We can close the CLI. And the next step is we have to run the Firebase login. Okay, open the command prompt again, paste the Firebase login, hit enter. We're officially going to Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we are going to learn how to set up Firebase in our Flutter application. We are not going to use the old method in which we have to download the files and upload in the root directory. We don't know the current status, what's going on. We just have to go through the 5 basic steps and our but today we are officially going to start the backend portion. You can get the design from the description below and videos. And if you're new, please subscribe. Steps. So let's start with today's tutorial. Using the CLI, we will log into our Firebase. Then we are going to activate that Flutter CLI that we have downloaded, and then we are going to run the Flutterfire configure command. These are the few commands that we have to run, and at the end we are going to add the dependency in our project, and we are good to go. So let's get started. Well, the first step is to click OK. मैंने पहले से सेटअप कर रहा है मैंने अपना फायरबेस का पहले से सेटअप है मेरे पास copy Flutterfire configure, copy it, and you can see we are pointing towards figures, and these are the ones you can use the application project. Unselect any of the options. So I'm going for यहाँ पर चूज करना होता है कौन कहाँ मतलब किस किस के लिए ऐप बनाना चाह रहा हूँ एंड्रॉइड iOS macOS और वेब Android and iOS. Hit enter. Can here you can see it's saying that registered a new Firebase Android app on Firebase project. So this was directly run this command automatically registered your this. Click on next command flutter pub add Firebase core, hit enter. Okay, you can see Firebase core with the latest version has not. You can see we have already have a file which is a Firebase options. Go back to the browser, hit continue to console. We are connected with our Firebase, and to see if we are connected or not, you can see we have already have a file which is a Firebase options. Go back to the browser, hit continue to console, and in here we are going to use the cloud firestore, and over here inside this build method we have a firestore database, and also we are going
एक सेकंड में मोबाइल चार्जिंग में लगा दूँ, मोबाइल काम है मेरा। जब तक ये देखो चैट्स चार्जिंग कम है मेरी। वीडियो चली रही है।
Going to use the authentication, so we have both options over here. Open the Firebase, and to see Firebase, use this command version, the dependencies, and that's it. I already have a file which is a Firebase options. Go back to the browser, hit continue. We have a Firestore database, and also you're going to use the authentication. So we have both options over here. Open the Firestore, click on create database, and this is what we are going to
Firebase console, or inside the Firebase, you go to my mock interview, and then versus 0 and 0. Real-time database, Firestore database.
learn in our next tutorial, in which we are going to learn how to store data inside the Firestore. We're going to use our sign up screen to collect all the data from user, and we are going to store the data inside our Firestore. We will learn what is Firestore and how the queries work inside the Firestore, what is collection, what is document, and also we are going to learn the comparison. So that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you learned something new. If you learned something new, please like the video, and if you're new,
Red Bull gives you wings.
This is more than a laptop launch. This is a you launch. AI just got personal. Introducing the Lenovo Yoga AI PC. That's smarter AI for you.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we are going to learn Flutter Firebase authentication using email and password. We are going to learn how to register a new user, how to sign up a user, and also how to log out. Today's tutorial is going to be very useful for those, doesn't matter if you're new or if you're coming from experienced background. So let's quickly have a look what we are going to achieve the user. We are not currently going to target username and phone number, but definitely we are going to get this data and want to perform the phone authentication and also want to store the data. But for today's the data, there is no such email exist. So let me just click on the sign up, make sure the internet is on, and you can see we are redirected to the dashboard, which will be the success scenario. And I have also added a login button at the top, but first let's check if we have a registered user. So you can see admin at coding with T has been registered. So let me just close this application, rerun it again. And this time you can see a little loader at the start, and then instead of going towards the login, sign up, and welcome screen, we have redirected towards our dashboard, and our dashboard is working pretty fine. Again, you can get the code from the description below. So when I'm going to click on this sign out, you can see we have redirected towards our welcome page. And in here, let's go to the login using same credentials, try to login, click on the login button, and you can see we have redirected towards our dashboard with a successful login message. So this is what we are going to learn today. We are creating a Flutter login application. You can see the design has completed. You can download the design from the description below. And we are working on the right side, which is the backend. In the previous tutorial, we set up the Flutter Firebase. You can watch the previous video. Link is in the description or get it from the right top corner. Whereas today we are going to perform the Flutter Firebase authentication using email and passwords. So without directly start coding, first of all, let's quickly have a look what we are going to create and how we are going to create. The first thing is we need to enable the Firebase authentication, email and password inside our Firebase console. So we have to go towards the Firebase, enable it, add the authentication dependency inside our project. Once we have access to the authentication properties, we have to make sure when our application launches, it should check if the user is already logged in, user is not logged in, initialize all the Flutter Firebase. Once done, we are going to get the values from user, pass it toward the sign up controller, which is going to handle all the logic of sign up controller. This controller is not going to handle the Firebase authentication logic, so we will create another controller to keep a separation of concern, which is going to handle everything related to Firebase. So there will be two controllers, and then we are going to also create a logout button. So without wasting time, let's get started. Open Android Studio, and we are inside the project we created for Flutter login application. Design is already completed. Remember, we first have to enable in the Firebase console. So open your browser, go to console.firebase.google.com. Remember, you have to open the same ID in which we have set up our Firebase. This is the project we created in our previous tutorial. Open it. And here you can see we have Android and iOS setup. You can click on this authentication. If not here, then in the build. So you will get started button. Click on it and this screen will be appeared. You just have to click on email and password. These are all the other methods. So you just have to click on it, enable the email and password. We don't need this because we have to configure it separately. So just save the button and you will be redirected to the user screen where we don't have any users created and no user is authenticated. So once done, head back to the project, open terminal. You just have to run flutter pub add Firebase authentication to add the Firebase authentication, and also you can get it from the flutter.dev website, and you just have to paste it over here inside the pubspec.yml file. Let's close it. Once added, don't forget to run the flutter pub get. Okay, after that inside
मैंने ये पहले बनाया था तो पहले से मेरे में दोनों है। ये देखो फायरबेस कोर और फायरबेस ऑथ। Cupertino icons, device preview, provider, lottie, animation, space screen, cloud firestore, get, liners, some Google font, and Flutter OTP tags.
our main application, we first have to tell the main application that before running or before
Wait, go to main, where is, यहाँ से कट कर लेते हैं main, ये रहा मेन के अंदर जो ये देखो पहले से मेरे में है विजय फ्लटर बाइटिंग डॉट इंश्योर इनिशियलाइज्ड अवेट फायरबेस इनिशियलाइज ऑप्शन वगैरह ये जो है ना करंट प्लेटफॉर्म ये मेरे पहले से बना हुआ है उसे मैं ऐड ऑन
generating
करना है
widgets, you just have to initialize the Firebase. widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialized. This line is going to ensure that initialization has been completed. So we are going to initialize for the firebase dot initialized app
कर्सर
and
कहाँ
a
गया मेरा?
semicolon. Now inside
मगर
we want to pass the
कर्सर नहीं दिख रहा
options.
भाई.
If you don't want to
ये
pass the options, it's up to you, but the recommended way is to pass the options, which is just going to tell that to add a platform using default Firebase options with a current
ये आप दिख
platform,
रहा है.
either Android, iOS, or web. Once initialized, we will go inside the lib folder, inside the
Wait initialize current. ठीक है.
source, go to the features, authentication, screens, and you can see we have inside the screens, sign up is created. So this is the layout. We don't want to add logic inside our design. So this was the sign up form widget. You can see we have all the text fields over here. We will collect the data from these text fields, but don't want to add logic inside the design. So what we are going to do, we are going to go to the controllers. I have created a sign up controller dot which is completely empty.
कहाँ पर कंट्रोलर्स? एक सेकेंड आते हैं यहाँ. चेक देयर इज नो कंट्रोलर. कंट्रोलर कहाँ बना है? ऑथेंटिकेशन के अंदर डायरेक्ट कंट्रोल. फीचर के अंदर ऑथेंटिकेशन का है. फीचर्स ये ऑथेंटिक. अच्छा यहाँ पर है कंट्रोलर, और कंट्रोलर के अंदर साइन अप कंट्रोलर. तो लेट्स क्रिएट अ डॉक फाइल डॉट साइन अप कंट्रोलर. बस एंटर. और यहाँ पर import material dot और यहाँ पे क्लास sign up controller extend getX controller and then start coding.
A class which extends getX controller. Now to use this getX controller wherever we want, we have to create a static sign up controller, get instance, then use a fat arrow because get is a function, get dot find. That's it. Now we can easily call sign up controller dot instance and we can use our getX controller.
Static sign up controller get instance equal get dot find.
Okay, next inside the signup controller, we want to add all the text editing controllers because we want to get the data from our text fields. So for that, I have created these four fields: email, password, full name, and phone number. And the last, I have created these four fields: email, password, full name, and phone number. And the last thing inside our signup controller will be a function which will be called when user is going to press the submit field. Okay, next inside the signup controller, we want to add all the text editing controllers because we want to get the data from our text fields. So for that, I have created these four fields: email, password, full name, and phone number. And the last thing inside our signup controller will be a
email text edit controller. अच्छा तो यहाँ पर सिंपल से कितने हैं? 4. 1 2 3 4. ईमेल हो गया, पासवर्ड हो गया, और फुल नेम, लास्ट वन इज फोन नंबर.
function which will be called when user is going to press the submit button. So it's a simple function which requires email and password as a parameters, and this is going to register the user, and you can see function will be called from the design. So once created, let's go to the form. Inside the widget, we first need to call the controller because we want to access everything over here. We can access the controller not by calling the instance but using get.put sign up controller. We can access it. We first need to design parameters, and this is going to register the user, and you can see function will be called from the design. So once created, let's go to the form. Inside the widget,
साइन अप फॉर्म विजेट, गो टू साइन अप. स्क्रीन के अंदर साइन अप एंड देन साइन अप स्क्रीन है अभी यहाँ पे. जो साइन अप ऑन विजिट यहाँ पर है, कुपर्टिनो को हटा लो, उसका काम नहीं है क्यूपर्टिनो। और यहाँ पर
widget, we first need to call the controller because we want to access everything over here. We can access the controller not by calling the instance but using get.put sign up controller, and we have everything inside the controller. So when the form is going to be submit, so we need form key. Again, if you're new with the forms, you can watch crash course, Flutter basic crash course I already defined, and I also drop the link down below in the description. Global key which will be of type
import, and put को भी import करना पड़ेगा, import it, and then final form key equals to global key, and inside this form state
form state.
form state.
So this key will be inside the form like this. Now form have a
Form
key. This must be unique. Using controller, we can assign text editing controllers, controller
controller, text form controller,
dot full name, copy and
dot full name,
paste for all others. So I have
password, अच्छा इसके लिए कर दिया तो controller dot email,
created a form key. I have created controller
ओके email के बाद phone भी तो है यहाँ पे, so controller dot phone, password नहीं phone dot phone, alright,
for all the four fields.
full name, email, phone number, password, full name, email, phone number, and last one is password. Controller dot password.
Fields full name, email, phone number, and password. We are not going to save all the data, but we are going to perform the authentication. So for that, we just going to need email and password in our case. But in upcoming tutorials, we will save all the data in our Firestore. So once we have all the data, we have a controller. When the user is going to press this button, we want to check if form key means the form is validated, current state validated. If it's validated, so this validated is going to be validate whatever the validation we basically we can add all the validators over here, but currently we don't have any validations. We will learn the validations in upcoming tutorials, but for today's tutorial there is no validation. But let's say form will be submitted. When validations has been passed, we want to call our sign up controller, so we can call directly sign up controller dot instance dot, we have a function register user which requires email and password, so we can say controller dot email dot text. So we pass control using controller, we can pass email dot text dot trim, remove the spaces, and also with the password, and we are just calling the registered user password which has been created over here. Now in here we need to call the registered user
sign up controller dot instance dot register user, email की जगह controller dot email dot h dot trim is set. Controller dot password email or password text dot trim, and we go.
User password which has been created over here. Now in here
Controller
we need to call the Firebase logic, or
Firebase logic. टोटल 8 आ चुके हैं अभी तक. टॉप चैट, लाइव चैट, टॉप चैट, लाइव चैट. टोटल 8 वोट, सबसे ज़्यादा 50. 8 घंटे स्क्रीन टाइम मैक्सिमम लोग.
let's say we want to perform additional validations, we can do it over here. We can do whatever. First we want to authenticate, then we want to register the data inside the Firestore. We will also do that here, but for today's tutorial we're going to perform authentication. So in here in this controller there is no Firebase or anything, so let's close it, close the features, go to repository. I have created new folder and also another folder repository which is authentication repository. Authentication repository, let's create a new file, authentication repository.dart, anything.
मैं
So
कुछ और
let's
सोच रहा था अभी.
close it, close the features, go to repository.
What to repository? Where is XML authentication के localization के फीचर के अंदर repository कहाँ है? Authentication screen से.
I have created new folder and also another folder repository which is authentication repository. Authentication repository, let's create a new file, authentication repository.dart. Okay, Nira, you create
Localization ये कहाँ पर है? फीचर के बाहर है, कॉमन विजेट के बाहर. फीचर के बाहर तो यही बनाना पड़ेगा क्या? रिपोजिटरी पहले ढूंढ लेते हैं. कंट्रोलर में भी ऑथेंटिकेशन के अंदर ये तो वैसे क्या है, स्क्रीन में तो करेंगे. कांस्टेंट के अंदर रिपोजिटरी नहीं है, कॉमन विजेट के अंदर नहीं है, तो सिंपल सा सॉर्ट के अंदर बनाना मेरे को रिपोजिटरी. जो inside क्या बनाना था?
authentication repository, let's create a new file, authentication repository.
Authentication repository dot application repository. Second is the lib के बाद mock interview और इसके अंदर जो भी अपना वो है.
Dart. Okay, Nira, you created a simple authentication repository class. which is again extending getX controller, and we have a static instance like same like we have created.
मैन वर्ड के टाग सबसे ज़्यादा स्टार्ट मेरा लाइक
Previously. So for this specific class, as it is a Firebase class, so we need variables which are related to Firebase. In here, you need to understand two things that as we are performing authentication. So the first thing is we need authentication, which is the Firebase authentication. And the second thing is the user who has been authenticated or who is already been authenticated, right? So we need two things, Firebase authentication dot instance, and that's it. So this instance is same like the instance we have created. So this is for the Firebase authentication, and this is for the authentication repository. Okay, so we have created authentication, all the authentication related items now inside our variable, which is a private final authentication. Now create another one which is final Firebase user. You can see it's not private because I have not added underscore with it. So we can easily access the user throughout our application because this user is going to contain the state if user is logged in, if user is logged out, all the values of the user like email, phone number, password, etc. So we are not going to make it private. Okay, this Firebase user is of type user. Basically, you can see this user is same coming from the package we have added Firebase authentication and add a question mark because it can be nullable. Okay, you need to understand one more thing that this user needs to be inside some stream because we want to get the latest values, and also whenever there is some change inside the Firebase user, let's say user is going to log in or log out, we want to perform some actions, we want to keep the user logged in even though he is going to close his application as we have seen in the example. So for that we have to convert this into either stream, or as we are using the getX, so we can easily convert it with the rx which has been provided from the getX. Now to initialize it, we want to make sure that when our application runs, it should check that if user is logged in, then redirect the user towards the dashboard. If user is logged out, redirect the user towards the welcome screen to perform login and sign up. So for that, we are going to press Ctrl O to override on ready function. This ready function will be called when
ऑलरेडी एक सेकंड डायरेक्ट ऑलरेडी कर सकते हैं ना अपन ये
whenever this authentication repository is ready. And definitely your question is right that authentication repository must be called inside main.dart because whenever our application loads, we want to run this. We want to check if user is already logged in or not. So let's first initialize the user authentication dot current user. So this current user is basically the user. We need to add late variable because it is not initialized at the top, and we are initializing it inside the onReady. So we just have to add a late method. Okay, now in here you can see it's giving an error because we have to add a cast. This cast is not going to work for you and might give an error. So recommended way is to add brackets around it. Just might give an error. So recommended way is to, you can see it's giving an error because we have to add a cast. This cast is not going to work for you and might give an error. So recommended way is to add brackets around it. Just copy the one we have created at the top add it over here, and the error is gone. This is not going to throw any type of error. So once we have initialized the Firebase user, now we want to give this user some stream from where user can fetch any change occur inside our Firebase. So we will say Firebase user dot bind stream. Stream will be coming from our authentication dot user changes. You can see at the top it's a current user. Firebase is a current user who has logged in or logged out. Authentication dot user changes. So this user changes is the one is a stream. When you hover over it, you can see it is a return type as stream of user, means it is always listening to the user. It's always seeing the user what he is doing. When the user is going to press the sign out or the logout button, it is going to inform this Firebase user to perform some action, right? So now Firebase user is informed, but he is want to perform some action. So for the action, we have a method which is ever, which is
listener.
always ready to perform some action. So
Okay.
listener is Firebase user. He is listening. Whenever anything came new,
Back.
this function should be executed. Let's create function. I am just saying to set the initial screen. You can perform whatever you like. Create method. Now if the user is null, this means the user has been logged out, already logged out, or just press the logout button. Then we want to redirect user to another page, not to. Off all means remove all the previous screens and redirect the user toward the welcome screen. If user is not null, this means user click on the login button and he has been authenticated. Then we want to redirect the user towards the dashboard. This is also going to run at the start. So let's say user is logged in, but he closes the application. When he open the application again, this onReady will run again, and
यहाँ पर अब थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है क्योंकि मैंने इसके पहले जो बनाया था ऑथेंटिकेशन वाला सिस्टम वो मतलब कहीं और से हर कुछ करा था, मतलब मिक्स हो जाएगा पूरा। अभी अब देखते हैं क्या होता है इसमें। एक सेकंड, कहाँ इनिशियलाइज कर रहा हूँ इसके अंदर। is firebase user dot bind stream और फिर auth then dot user changes ever listener dot firebase user and inside set initial screen create a method or class class बन गई, इसमें मेथड बनाया, add a cost where the word is remove just remove create a class, यहाँ पर जाके create method, yes method user and user callback user inside this user equal to null, then get dot of all pages and inside this constant welcome screen मेरी है ये साइन इन वाली साइन इन login screen means welcome get dot of all and inside this constant constant और डैशबोर्ड नहीं है मेरे पास है कैटेगरी में भी कैटेगरी हेल्प मी कैटेगरी स्क्रीन एक सेकेंड लेट मी चेक पेजेस के अंदर क्या है सेटिंग पेज थीम प्रोवाइडर थीम यूजर रिपोजिटरी यूजर ये नहीं करना यूजर डिटेल के अंदर होम पेज अपडेट प्रोफाइल लेट्स से होम पेज के अंदर वेबसाइट वगैरह है होम पेज ही होगा एक बार लिख लेते हैं कहाँ लिख रहा था मैं? कट होम पेज, कट हाँ यहाँ पे होम पेज एल्स। अगर यूज़र हमारा लॉग आउट हो गया मतलब इक्वल टू नल हो गया यूज़र, तो गेट ऑफ ऑल ये लॉगिन वाली स्क्रीन पर पहुंच जाएगा। अगर मतलब लॉग आउट नहीं है, वो जैसे ही इंटर होगा मोबाइल अपना जैसे ही ऑन करेगा डायरेक्ट आ जाएगा होम पेज में। ये नहीं कि हर बार लॉगिन में जाएगा, लॉगिन करेगा और फिर आगे बढ़ेगा। अगर उसने लॉग आउट करा तब जाएगा लॉगिन के पर, अगर लॉग आउट नहीं करा ऐसे ही रिफ्रेश करके फिर से मोबाइल ऐप ऑन करा तो डायरेक्ट आ जाएगा होम पेज में। ऐसा फॉर लाइक्स, फॉर लाइक 50, 7 घंटा प्लस 8 घंटे प्लस 5 आवर्स, 12
Also going to check if user is null, redirect to welcome screen if user is already logged in, that there is no need to show the welcome and login screen again. Go to the dashboard. Now when the user has been redirected, we get the user. Now we want to create a function, return type is void, create user with email and password, string email and password. Inside we want to create using await method, call authentication dot create user with email and password. This is the function. We have passed email and password at semicolon. Because this is await, add a sync method, so this will be turned as future. Return type is void, this will be returned as async. So as this is a cloud statement, this could throw an exception. So first thing that it should have a await at the start, and it should be wrapped inside try catch. Okay, you created try
create user with email and password, with email and password, message and then a sync and this side try future and got this add, edit here like void full, then try inside the try await auth dot create user email and password, email password already filled, and this after that on firebase, firebase auth exception, firebase auth exception catch error, and then nothing over there, and then catch remove empty catch clause.
try catch and call this statement inside the try. The first catch is basically on Firebase auth exception, because we can easily get user friendly code which is e.code. So this e is going to provide us some code, so we will see that in a minute, and we can easily catch the user friendly exception and throw it because our application should not be crashed. Okay, this is for the sign up. We will see that in a minute, and we can easily catch the
अच्छा वहाँ पर ई डॉट कोड करके अगर उसे प्रिंट करवा लेता तब पता चलता हमारे पास एरर क्या आया है, ऐसा कुछ है।
user friendly exception and throw it because our application should not be crashed. Okay, this is for the sign up. Let's say user wants to log in using the email and password. You just have to change it to login with email and password. Okay, this is for the sign up. Let's say user wants to log
ओके, तो यहाँ से कटेगा ये पूरा फ्यूचर तक कंट्रोल सी where pasted create user with email or password.
Login using the email and password. You just have to change it to login with email and password. Again, we need email and password, and this only function is going to be changed. Just have to call sign in with email and password.
Login with email and password और ये होगा आपका sign in with email and password. Create sign up user with email. Sign in user sign in और सही तो लिखा है पूरा. Create user यहाँ पर sign in with email and password. Sign in with sign in user sign in email and password.
Pass email and the password, and that's it. Again, try at catch will work for this. Okay, after this, let's create a function which is going to log out. So logout is simple, another async
Future void logout. ये मैंने पहले भी बना चुका है, उसका मतलब देख के जब पहले बनाया था वो डिफरेंट इससे थोड़ा सा. Await and then all dot sign out.
function because it's a single line, so I have added fat arrows, await authentication dot sign out. Okay, now let's try to learn how we can create our custom exceptions. Inside the exceptions folder, let's create
Exception अब कहाँ से आ रहा है? एक सेकंड ये सब बंद कर दो. एक्सेप्शन कहाँ पर है? ऑथेंटिकेशन के अंदर है एक्सेप्शन, मतलब इसके अंदर. एक्सेप्शन
a new file. Okay, so I have created
एक्सेप्शंस और एक्सेप्शंस के अंदर एक सेकंड यहाँ पर भी तो है एक्सेप्शन. ये किस काम आएगी? हमने से नहीं यूज़ करा अभी. और यहाँ पर एक फाइल, फाइल का नाम है साइन अप email password failure. Failure give you two choice. Sign up email password failure.
sign up email password failure dot inside the exceptions because we can add login with email and password failure, Google exceptions, phone number.
Okay, so class sign up with email and password failure. Final string message. Where is G? Message. Add late modifier. ठीक है, यहाँ पर तो ऐड नहीं हुआ, शायद यहाँ दिखते थे. Sign up with email and password, but inside this dot message equal to an unknown error occurred unknown
Exceptions, and all the exceptions will
this.
go inside this folder. So inside you can see we have a single message, a single constructor. Let's make it constant using this dot message add square.
किस चीज का आ रहा है। ट्राई फंक्शन मस्ट बी प्रोवाइडेड, ट्राई चाहिए तो अभी
brackets with the this dot message we can add a message unknown error occurred, but to call in here you can see we have to pass e dot code for the specific firebase auth exception. So for that we have to create factory constructor, or you can say the named constructor. Let's name it dot code, and as a variable we will get code. This is the basic structure of the factory.
factory sign up and failure dot code string code this. 5. Try adding enter return throw statement at the end. Must be provided. Try adding error यहाँ पर भी आ रहा है.
Constructor, and we should return sign up with email password failure, which is this one. So in here, to identify which case has arrived, we are going to use switch add code. Inside we're going to create a case colon return sign up with email and password failure, let's say some error, and as a default will have no case, will return the null. So default is going to return this, which means an error occurred, but in here we are going to pass the values. Let me create 2 to 3 cases. The first case, in here we are going to pass the values. Let me
second एक ये हुआ और दूसरा default return and then फिर से sign up failure.
create 2
Try adding
to 3 cases. The first case is weak password with the message please enter a stronger password, invalid email, email is not valid or bad format.
okay, so कितने करना है. Case return case return case return case return default return then case वाले को करना है मेरा control D maybe केस भी लिखना है और फिर रिटर्न लिखना है. 1 2 3 लेट से 3 केस रिटर्न केस रिटर्न केस और रिटर्न केस रिटर्न. सो फर्स्ट केस इज वीक. अरे उसके बाहर कहाँ जा रहा है. वीक पासवर्ड वीक पासवर्ड है तो क्या करना है यहाँ पे उसका मैसेज डालना है. प्लीज एंटर स्ट्रॉन्गर पासवर्ड invalid email replace invalid. क्या क्या लिख रहा हूँ. inside is email is not valid or badly formatted. Inside this email already in use. An account already exists for that email. यहाँ पर क्या बता रहा है. अच्छा, बाहर लगा दिया. क्या क्या कर रहा हूँ. Email everything is fine, and last one is user disabled. User disabled. तो क्या करना है. this user has been disabled. Please contact support. Operation not allowed. Oh, ये लाइन तो छोड़ ही दी मैंने. Control-C, paste it here. Weak password invalid email or release operation not allowed. Operation not allowed. Operation is not allowed. Please contact tank contact support. And last one is user disabled. User disabled. This user has been disabled. Please contact support. Please contact support for help. For help. And last return is default. Default में क्या return कुछ भी नहीं कर पाया.
And all the things. So let's close it, go back, and all the things. So
Close क्यों बोल रहा है भाई? यहाँ पर ये error आ रहा है. अब error क्या बोल रहा है? Try adding a function body. A function body must be provided. Second, Control is C. Please wait and enter. Take this. Factory gives error. Said try adding. क्या बोला था? मेथड बोला था, क्या बोला था? इतना ही रहने देते हैं. फंक्शन बॉडी बोला था. ट्राई एडिंग फंक्शन बॉडी. Zero 14 13 14. सबसे ज़्यादा 8 आवर्स, 8 घंटे चलाते हैं भाई. एवरेज व्यू ड्यूरेशन 30. ये घंटा हुआ है, 1.5 घंटे से लाइव हूँ.
so let's
Return to try and catch. Factory sign up. Add a return type. भाई इसने कहाँ रिटर्न टाइप ऐड करा है? यहाँ पर क्या है? स्ट्रिंग कोड. एक सेकेंड. स्ट्रिंग कोड पूरा सेम ही तो है. फैक्ट्री इज बिल्डिंग फैक्ट्री. ये भी सही है. ट्राई दिस मेथड स्ट्रिंग मैसेज. Everything is same.
close it, go back over here to use
authentication repository. Close it, authentication repository.
this.
Catch के अंदर रहना है, कौन सा catch है?
I'm going to create a keyword. Final exception is equal to failure dot that.
Final is equal to sign up with failure.
Let's first import the class failure dot code, and inside we have to pass e dot code, and that's it.
Dot code inside this e dot code. That's it.
So basically this is the default constructor, but as we have a factory constructor, so we are calling factory constructor pass e dot code. Then we can also use a print statement to check what's the error. We can use the print statement to call Firebase auth exception and pass the message whatever has been received over here. And
Print Firebase auth exception. Firebase auth exception. And dollar inside this text dot message. Here we go.
and then also in the default, we can create a constant called this default constructor, and again throw the default constructor. So press Ctrl
Throw it. With throwing throw x inside is constant x equal to sign up with email password failure. Print x the
Alt. Okay, in here when the user is going to perform the email
डीजे जा रहा है बाजू से तो आवाज नहीं आ रहा है।
and password authentication successfully, or he has been created his account successfully, we want to redirect that user by checking if Firebase user dot value not is equal to null. Then we want to get dot off all means remove all the previous screens, go to dashboard, otherwise go to welcome screen. So this value is basically, you can see it here, Firebase is the Rx type, but to get its inner value, we just have to call the dot value, and now it's pointing towards this user. If it's null, we want to perform this action. Okay, now in here you can see we have everything set up. So let's call this on ready inside the main.dart when application launches, and we want to make sure that Firebase has been initialized. After that, we are going to call dot then function, and inside we have to call get dot put, call our authentication repository, control alt L to align. Now whenever the application is going to be launched, Firebase will be initialized and our authentication repository will be get kicked or get initialized. It's going to come over here inside the onReady function, initialize the Firebase, convert it into bind stream to here
Excellent
inside
job.
we will is going to be launched, Firebase will be initialized, and our authentication repository will be get kicked or get initialized. It's going to come over here inside the onReady function, initialize the Firebase, convert it into bind stream to keep the Firebase user listening. And if there is any change, it's going to call this function. Okay, now let's try to run the application. Okay, so our application is running. You can see the welcome screen has appeared. Click on sign up, open the run method. Now inside, let's try to add email and password. So we have email and password. Let's click on the sign up button. It's not working because we forget to add or forget to call authentication register function in the register user. So in here we just have to call authentication repository, import it, dot instance dot create user with email and password. This is what we want to pass, and that's it. Let's save the code, delete.
Authentication repository dot instance dot create user with email and password. यहाँ से करते हैं बैकग्राउंड बैक करते पहले ये कर लेते हैं क्रिएट यूजर एंड पासवर्ड ईमेल एंड पासवर्ड ऑलरेडी प्रेजेंट है this password and control this rerun means restart what performing what restart let's wait यहाँ पर क्या आया कुछ आया क्या ये क्या आ रहा है? टेरर टाइप नल टाइप इज नॉट सब टाइप ऑफ RX। यहाँ आ रहा है error। Type error null. Type null is not subtype of type RX. Where state strong RX user ये वाला था क्या अंदर?
Let's click on sign up. You can see the error over here, which is Firebase auth exception, which is unknown error occurred because
Email node@gmail.com. Your phone @gmail.com. Password should be and double R 1234. Click on sign up and check if any error. ये है unknown error occurred. यही आ रहा है यहाँ पर. Has been created, has been initialized. Right.
my mobile device, which is a physical device, is currently not connected with the internet. So make sure that you have an internet on. Let's click on sign up again. And at the bottom, you can see it has been redirected. Is currently not connected with the internet. So make sure that you have an internet on. Let's click on sign up again. And at the bottom, you can see it has been redirected.
Internet. एक सेकेंड साइन अप और ये कर लिया. Create user. An account already exists for that Gmail.
That is currently not connected with the internet. So make sure that you have an internet on. Let's click on sign up again. And at the bottom, you
भाई ये केस हो सकता है, मेरा भी तो कनेक्ट है इंटरनेट से. मोबाइल ये कनेक्ट है या नहीं कनेक्ट? अच्छा यहाँ पर करके देख, एक सेकेंड यहाँ चेक कर लेता हूँ पहले. हमारे फायर बेस में आया क्या ऑथेंटिकेशन? अच्छा ये आ भी गया जीमेल 4 वाला भी मैंने नहीं करा. 13 अक्टूबर और के वर्किंग परफेक्टली, क्योंकि मेरा वहाँ पर आ चुका है वो नोड फॉर gmail.com. फायर बेस में स्टोर हो रहा है और यहाँ पर भी 100% ये चलेगा. इंटर हो जाना चाहिए. ये क्या है भाई? सही तो डाल रहा हूँ मैं पासवर्ड. शायद इसके लॉगिन वाले बटन पर मैंने कुछ ऐड ही नहीं करा, तो क्या वहाँ से लॉगिन वाले लेट रीस्टार्ट द ऐप. Restart the Android Studio, not app. All Android Studio, search Android Studio, battery saving on, power saving on. Let's run the app. कभी कभी अपन सिंपल से इसे रीस्टार्ट करते हैं या रीरन करते हैं या रीस्टार्ट कर दो तो ऑटोमेटिक इसके कुछ एरर जो हैं सॉल्व हो जाते हैं. ये वाला एरर शायद ही सॉल्व हुआ, क्योंकि वो एरर रिलेटेड नहीं है थोड़ा. लेट्स से क्रोम.
can see it has been
भाई
redirected
आवाज
to
क्या
the
आ रही है
dashboard. Now let's
अनप्रिडिक्टेबल
open
मार्क।
our Firestore and let's see the entry. So in here, let's see the entry if user has been created or not. Reload it, and you can see the mail we have entered is has been created inside the authentication. And also let me just close our application, rerun the application again, and you can see instead of going towards the login and sign up, we have been redirected towards the dashboard. So that's it for today's tutorial. One more thing, that if you are facing that your screen has been automatically redirected using the same design and you don't want the splash screen, you just have to not call the splash screen, but instead you can call circular progress indicator. Let's rerun the application. So it's running again. Okay, and here you can see again it's logged in automatically without showing any login sign up screens. So when I'm going to click on this button, I have added logout. As in the dashboard, you can see by going towards the dashboard app bar, inside its icon button, I just call authentication. repository.instance.log. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we are going to learn Flutter Firebase authentication using email and password. We are going to learn how to register new user, let's rerun the application. So it's running again. Up screen dashboard, you can see by going towards the dashboard app bar. Inside its icon button,
सो आज 2 घंटे के लाइव हो चुके हैं और अब कर रहा हूँ मैं एंड। बैटरी भी कम चार्ज है, 15% हो गई। 16 वोट है सबसे ज़्यादा, 8 आवर्स प्लस। लाइव चैट ऑप्शंस, ओके सो यहाँ से करता हूँ एंड लाइव स्ट्रीम एंड खत्म।